All right, we're live. Hello and welcome to the My RD Journey podcast. I am your host and producer, Adam, and with me, of course, is Felicia Peraza of Peraza Nutrition, perazanutrition.com, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Today, we are talking about...
We're going to talk about the first steps in starting your private practice.
Okay, and if you're curious as to why you should start a private practice or why you might want to do that, check out our most recent podcast where we go in depth on why you may want to start your own private practice. Today's not about why, today is about how. So we're going to get into the first steps of your practice, and there are a few key things that you need to do first and foremost. So what are those few first key crucial steps?
Yeah, so the first three things that you absolutely have to do would be one, to get what's called an EIN, or an employee identification number, also known as a tax ID. And usually when people are asking me for that number, they reference it as a tax ID. So this is also known as the federal tax identification number.
That's your EIN.
Yes. And this basically identifies what your entity is, so what your business is. So if you've ever heard of a sole proprietor or an LLC, these would be different types of entities. So usually...
They're like business structures, right?
Yes.
Like a tax structure?
Yes, exactly.
Those are big fancy business words that I don't know that much about, but I pretend to. And they sound good when I say them.
I do.
You're an LLC.
I'm an LLC.
But you started as a sole proprietor?
Yes. So I started as a sole proprietor, which some people do because it's super easy. It's a free process. You just fill out the information online for by the IRS on the website.
I guess I'll just state this on the top. This is not legal or professional advice. Not really. It's, this is Felicia's experience in doing this. We're really outlining her steps and what she did. And you can follow them if you'd like, but don't consider this official legal advice. If you're going to get this started, make sure you check what the parameters are in your state or country. These things can change geographically quite a bit, but this is the process that Felicia took to get this going in Pennsylvania in the United States.
Yes, that's a great point, especially because every state might be different as to what the process is for registering a business or creating a sole proprietorship or anything like that.
That said, you can probably follow in these footsteps to some degree.
Yeah.
Just don't take them to be legal advice. It's a bit of a liability off the top disclaimer. Okay, EIN, you started as a sole proprietor and you transitioned into an LLC. Why did you do that?
So when I started as a sole proprietor, it was the easy thing to do. I didn't have to pay any extra money, and it was really simple to just start it. With the LLC, I wanted more protection from my legal protection, liability, to separate my business and my personal assets, basically. So if there was ever an issue with, liability, I have liability insurance, which is something else we're going to talk about, but they were separated, business and personal. So in all honesty, I kind of wish I did the LLC first, because even though there was a filing fee in Pennsylvania and there was a lot more paperwork, it was a nightmare to kind of change after the fact.
So it's probably easier for someone to just start as an LLC straight up. There is a bit of a financial barrier to cross. It wasn't a ton of money, though, was it?
No, in some states it varies, but in Pennsylvania it was like $125. So it wasn't
not exactly
crazy.
A huge sum of money, considering that you're starting a business. Essentially, a private practice is your own small business. So I guess I'll state officially, this is for entertainment purposes, this podcast. I think that's the official thing I have to say to not get sued by anyone. Okay. So the EIN, you need that. That's the first thing you need pretty much off the bat, right?
Yes. And when you fill out that form, again, it's online. Make sure you save the PDF that they give you at the end, because you can never download it ever again. Yeah, it's crazy.
So wait. So if you create your business and you get your EIN, there's a form that you have to download.
That basically states what your tax ID number is, and congratulations, here it is. And so it's so hard to find the number after, because you have to call all these people, and I don't even know if they actually give it to you over the phone, but
so that's your one shot at actually getting that number. And
download the paperwork, print it out, save it, because you can never and it tells you to. It's like you can never download this again.
That's pretty serious. Okay, serious business for your private practice here. So does that encompass the EIN fully? Is that exactly what you would need to know?
Yeah, the only other thing I would say before you fill out that paperwork is you're going to need to know what your mailing address is going to be. So if you do plan on using a business address, I would get that set up ahead of time, like a different business address than maybe your home address. And then also...
Well, you have a P.O. box.
Yeah, it's not really a P.O. box because it can't be like a PO box number, but it can be a real street address, but a PO box.
What you have is a business. It's a street address with a suite number.
Yeah, so it's they call it a real street address, but it's a business mailbox. And that's what you can get set up. And there's a cost to it, obviously, but if you don't want to list your home address, which would then be listed on the Department of State website.
Yeah, I guess for privacy purposes, it's better to not list your own residence. That's a personal choice.
Exactly. And some people, they change it. They use their home address, or if they have maybe they have a home office. I mean, it really is up to you, but you're going to need to know the address that you want to use. And then if you wanted to do a business name, so I'm Peraza Nutrition LLC. I originally, as a sole proprietor, was Felicia Peraza doing business as Peraza Nutrition. But if you wanted to create like a business name, you might want to think of that ahead of time.
So in terms of that initial tax structure setup, sole proprietor versus LLC, it's easier to get going as a sole proprietor, but your personal recommendation for entertainment purposes only is to start as an LLC, because in the long term, it's easier. It was kind of a headache to get that switched over.
Yeah. And I besides having the separation of, liability, with personal and business and liability and all that, also, if I ever wanted to hire anybody, I can't really do that as a sole proprietor. So it just opens up more opportunities too.
It sounds like being an LLC is a lot more scalable, and there are some other benefits that I guess we'll get to a little bit later. The next thing you should set up is an NPI. What is an NPI?
An NPI is a National Provider Identifier, and it's a unique 10-digit number, basically. And it's basically like a social security number for healthcare providers.
Okay, NPI, it's exclusive to healthcare, National Provider
Identifier.
Okay. Yep. And that has to do with becoming a provider for health insurance companies.
Yeah. So if you are planning to accept insurance, you will need an NPI. And this is actually a fairly easy online form to also fill out. You're going to need to know, obviously what your business address is, your business name. And there's two different types that you need to be aware of. So there's what's called an NPI type 1, which would be an individual NPI, and you will use your social security number for that. If you're getting an NPI type 2, this is a group NPI. So what I have is a group NPI for my LLC, and then I have an individual NPI, which is under me. So it's my Felicia Peraza individual
for
NPI.
You as a person within your business.
Yes.
So you have an NPI for yourself, just you, and then your business itself as an entity has its own NPI.
Yes. So when I'm credentialed with insurances, I'm credentialed as the LLC NPI, and then also as an employee, basically, of the company, Felicia Peraza. And then if I were to hire any dietitians, they would come with their own individual NPI and be linked to my business.
Okay, so where do you go to like actually start the process for your EIN and NPI?
So the NPI is NPPES, and we'll link it in the
links in the description in the show notes. All the links to this stuff if you're looking to get this going.
Yeah, and then the IRS website, which we'll also link down below too.
For the EIN.
For the EIN, yes.
The EIN is a thing you need for like anything, really, if you're going to work or be involved. I think I needed that when I became a manager. It was, I think you need that for employment in general.
Or if you get like 1099, so if you do contract work, then you're using that versus giving people your social security number too. So I had an EIN as a sole proprietor, and so if I worked with any companies, I gave them that on a W-9 versus here's my social, and that wasn't floating around.
Yeah, there's a bit of a security risk with giving out your social security number. You should probably be conservative with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so professional liability insurance?
Yes, you absolutely, you should just have this across the bat if you're working as a dietitian, whether it's in a hospital or outpatient.
Across the board or off the bat?
Yes.
For you, it's across the bat.
Is that what I said?
I'm making fun of what you said.
Oh, whoops.
Across the bat, you should have professional liability insurance.
Squish them all together.
Across the bat.
That's definitely something you should absolutely get. But if you are going to work with insurance companies and become a provider, you will need that before you can apply to become a provider for insurance companies.
Professional liability insurance. What does that do?
So basically, it protects you against negligence. So if somebody decided that they wanted to sue you, or if they maybe felt that they didn't get what they were hoping to get out of your services, and they think that you were negligent, or you gave them terrible dietary advice and they had adverse side effects. It's really there to protect you. I have 2 separate liability insurances. I have one as a personal trainer and one as a dietitian. So they're 2 separate policies under 2 separate companies.
So you would need separate policies with separate companies if you were offering more than one service here, I think is how I'm interpreting that.
Yeah, it depends. There's some insurance companies that offer professional liability insurance and they have like an umbrella and you're able to add different types of coverages depending on what kind of specialties or licenses you have. Unfortunately, with the one I do have, which is called Mercer Pro Liability, they didn't have an option for personal training. So I ended up having to go with another company. But there are some insurances that are larger that might have kind of more.
So it's possible to have one company for both coverages if you shop around a bit, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's professional liability insurance.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, we mentioned the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, but if you are a member of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, they do offer a discount for insurance, liability insurance. So that's one place to check to get started. And then also if you have any other specialty certifications, check with wherever you got it from. So like ACE or ACSM, they often offer discounts too. So
good idea. So LLC, doesn't that stand for Limited Liability Corporation or Company?
Company, yeah. So limited liability company. And there's also S corps and C corps, and I'm not too keen on all the definitions, but there's all different types. There's partnerships. So there's other structures, basically.
Yeah, it's a tax structure from what I understand. LLC seems to be the way to go in your situation.
Yeah. And to be honest, I mean, being a sole proprietor isn't unprofessional, but I just feel like sometimes being able to say LLC
it sounds professional, I guess, but you functioned as a sole proprietor for a long time.
I did. And I only really changed because I was like, I kind of want this extra protection. And I also wasn't sure if I would ever want to hire employees or...
All right, so let's just outline real quick, because I think that's probably important for someone to know why they would actually make the jump to LLC versus sole proprietor. I don't know if we went into enough detail about it earlier, but what was the trigger for you to really make the switch and commit to making the switch?
So the liability protection, the aspect of legal protection, so my personal and business assets are completely separated, and then also the aspect of the credibility. But to be honest, the biggest thing was the personal and liability, like the complete separation with those two.
Separation of you, your person, and your business.
Yes.
Okay, so someone couldn't sue you personally over a business malfeasance or negative interaction or something like that. It's more about not getting sued, I guess, is what it's about.
Basically.
Not getting sued as Felicia, but getting sued as Peraza Nutrition. There's a lot of differences in terms of like the legal. I am by no means a legal expert.
Yeah, it's kind of like in a sense they're coming after the company and not me individually.
So they couldn't like take your house or something.
Yes, or like my car, but they could take, whatever the business had. So it was separated.
Separating your assets from your business. That's the big thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. So your car is not associated. Your personal vehicle is not associated with your business in any way.
No.
It's possible to have a vehicle for business purposes, but then that asset would be associated with your business, and that could be targeted for, if you were sued or something.
Yeah.
Big difference. So, I think it's important to include those little details. So, all right, if you have your EIN set up and you pick your structure, sole proprietor, LLC, S Corp, or whatever, and then NPI, and hold on. You also mentioned that you went LLC because if you wanted to hire somebody, that would be easier.
Yes.
You can't hire somebody as a sole proprietor.
To be honest, I don't think so. All right, I'm almost positive you can.
Maybe not. I guess I don't know. It's a lot. Well, anyway, it's a lot easier to hire someone and pay someone out of your business.
Yes.
As an LLC.
Yeah.
That's an important distinction to make. It's possible that it's doable as a sole proprietor, but in your interpretation for entertainment purposes, it's LLC is the easier way to go for you if you wanted to hire somebody or pay them out of Peraza Nutrition, out of your business.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So a lot of benefit there to going LLC, a little more setup involved in the beginning. There is a cost barrier as well, but it's pretty low, all things considered. And, maybe that's the better way to go depending on your situation. The two that seem to be the most viable for starting off are sole proprietor and limited liability company, LLC.
Yes. Yep.
There are other options. Explore them if you wish. All right, so what are our next steps here? If you're planning to accept insurance, where do you go from here? What's the next best thing to do?
So once you have all that set up, the next thing you're going to want to do is called it's called the CAQH, or the Council for Affordable Quality Healthcare. This is basically a credentialing database, and this will make your life so much easier if you're going to apply for becoming a provider with different insurance companies. So what this is, it's a very lengthy document. You fill it out online.
I'll leave a link in the description to this website. Okay.
Yes.
It's a link to the CAQH website where you have to fill out a document to... All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's the CAQH ProView, and it's basically a credentialing database. So you're going to enter in all of your information, so the NPI, the tax ID, all that stuff we just talked about, where your business is located, what kinds of clients you see, your information as, a healthcare provider, what your experiences, your education, all of that. So it's a lot to fill out. However, when you go to each individual insurance company to apply to become a provider on their website, you just enter in your CAQH number, and so it helps
and
you
it's
to
all done.
Yeah, it helps you from entering in the same information over and over again. It's so much easier.
So this sounds like you're setting up a template within this database to then provide to provide to insurance companies if you wish to be a provider for those companies. How many insurance companies are you a provider for yourself?
5, 6. Yeah.
6. So you would have had to do this 6 times, and probably they would have all been formatted a little differently too. This process would have been, sounds like a bit of a nightmare if you didn't have this CAQH already handled.
Yeah. And one thing to note too is that once you're set up with insurance companies, you have to, every 90 days, I think it is, you have to update your CAQH profile, which basically means that you add in your new liability insurance, any new certifications, you check that your address is correct, and they just require you to basically correct that information. And when you look on insurance company websites and search for a provider and you find the directory, that's actually getting pulled from the CAQH and some other sites too, but primarily the CAQH. So
hydrate. Time to hydrate.
Whoops, sorry.
So it sounds like if you do that, then instead of having to update that stuff on several platforms, potentially half a dozen platforms or so, you do it in one central location and it's done.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's a massive upside to doing that.
Yeah.
And so what other benefits are there to being involved in the CAQH?
It's just one centralized location. So you're not putting in the same information more than once. And then I think some of the insurance companies I work with now, they actually require you to have the CAQH set up. So before it was like optional to enter in the ID, and now it's required. So depending on your insurance that you might be applying for, they may require you to actually have that set up anyway. So it's just a good idea to do it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a really good idea to do it. It sounds like you're getting ahead of the curve if you start off doing this, because you're going to run into some roadblocks potentially down the line if you're looking to get involved with more insurance companies. Are there any downsides to doing this?
The CAQH itself?
Yeah.
No. It's a lengthy document, but once everything's in there, it's just a matter of updating the information every 90 days, which sometimes is just clicking a box. So
Okay, so we've got some cons in terms of like afterwards though.
For insurance as a whole. So
if you want to accept insurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
different thing. I'm looking at our outline here. So you do want this form set up to make the process for being accepted by insurance companies streamlined. And when it says every 90 days you have to update the information.
Yeah, so you just make sure that the information there is correct. So
you're just verifying it, really.
Yeah.
How often do you actually change something?
Honestly, the only time I go in and change everything is once a year when I update my insurance policy for my liability insurance. But
usually you're just verifying and it's done.
Yeah.
And rather than doing that across 6 platforms, you do it on one.
Yes. So much easier.
Sounds like a no-brainer to go with the CAQH here.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
So once you do that, then you're going to actually apply on each insurance company's website to become a provider. And usually one easy way to find this, if you're not sure where it's at on the actual website itself, is to search the insurance company in like a search engine like Google and become a provider.
Oh, I've heard of Google.
And that'll bring you easily to the spot that you need. But otherwise, on the insurance company websites, there will be a provider section. And then there's usually something that says like, join our network or become a provider. And you're going to fill out an online form, which is generally going to be your name, your information, your business information, like general stuff, and then the CAQH number.
Can we give examples of insurance providers that you are a provider for? Is that okay to talk about?
Yeah, because I think I even have it on my website. And if you search, you'll find me. So I'm a provider for Independence Blue Cross, and this is Pennsylvania. So some plans differ by state, but Independence Blue Cross, Cigna, United Healthcare, Medicare, On Track, and
maybe another one.
Magnacare. That's the other one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And CAQH. All a one-stop shop for all of those, and you would apply to them individually.
Yes.
With your CAQH as well as some other information, I assume.
Yes, yeah. But the big thing that a lot of people don't realize is that you're not actually credentialed until you fill out the paperwork on each individual insurance company website, and then you'll get into this kind of pool, and it can take a while. So this is why you want to start this process early if you're thinking about taking insurance.
You get into a pool?
Oh, sorry. I didn't really explain that before. You basically, so you apply for the insurance to become a provider, and then someone will contact you for what's called credentialing.
Someone will reach out to you?
Yes.
Okay. From the insurance company?
Yes. And now you can call and check the status of your application, but most of the time they'll just tell you someone will contact you, whether it's...
Could be days, could be weeks, or...
months, usually.
Months? Okay.
Yeah. Usually it's months. And it can, I think they say on the websites, anywhere from 30 to 60 to 90 days. But for me, it was like 3 months. So.
All right. Well, that's about 90 days. So it's a lengthy process to get approved for this stuff. I take it then.
Yeah. So once your information is verified with this credentialing part of the process, they'll send you the contract, which would then have, it's usually like 40 or 50 pages long, but it goes through all of what you need to know as a provider, your reimbursement rates, all that kind of stuff, what codes are acceptable. So it'll be a lot of information. And then you'll sign that, and then that will basically, you're in network.
A big piece of legal advice across the board that I would offer to anyone doing anything involving a contract is that you actually read the contract.
Yes, please do.
Because there may be some stuff in there that you have a problem with, and you may need to reconsider or, renegotiate. I don't know, but it's always a smart thing to read a contract in its entirety. It's your livelihood at stake here. You should probably read that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a lengthy document, but to be honest, I when I first started, I printed a lot of information and read through it and highlighted, and just to be able to see what's in there, because sometimes the contracts are pretty vague in terms of all healthcare, and so you want to make sure you find the information that specifically relates to you, and make sure that they have that information in the contract. Because I had that be an issue recently, where they sent me a contract when I was re-credentialing as the LLC that was not for dietitians. So I was like...
So you had to get a different contract.
Yeah.
If you had signed it, there may have been an issue down the road.
Yeah, because then I'm like, well, what are my policies? So, yeah, make sure you read through that.
Yeah, if nothing else, it's powerful to be informed as the business owner, to know what you're contracted to with these providers. It's the information. Being informed is very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so those are the major steps, I would assume then. The EIN, the NPI, and the professional liability insurance. Following up with that, you want to set up your CAQH and then use that to apply for insurance companies that you wish to become a provider for.
Yes.
What else should we be doing to start a private practice?
So next thing you want to think about, and these are kind of steps that you can do kind of in any order that makes sense to you, but deciding on payment and policies for your payment. So how you're actually going to accept payment, whether it's from self-paying clients or also, again, if you're working with insurance companies, what that is going to look like. So what you'll need to do first is set up an actual like a bank account. So business.
Specifically for your business, not a personal account, something separate. You go to your bank, they have business accounts. This is something you have to work with a bank to do.
Yes, absolutely. So you're going to set up a business account, business bank account. Sometimes they term it as like a merchant account or merchant services. So you're going to do that. And then once you have that set up, then you want to think about how you're going to accept payment. So are you going to take checks? Most insurance companies either do direct deposit or send you paper checks. But I've had a few where they send me like printed credit card type things.
So this is payment from insurance companies sending you payment.
Yes.
This is not from people paying out of pocket.
Yeah. So paying out of pocket, that's kind of where you might decide. You might say, I'm only going to accept, cash, checks, or credit cards.
Let's stick with accepting insurance payments though. Mm-hmm. Okay. So there are insurance companies that will send you checks.
Yes.
And you have to set up your bank account to allow you to accept their checks.
So if they're sending you a paper check, they're just going to send you like a regular check, and then you would deposit it. If a lot of companies now that I work with insurance anyway, they actually want you to be set up with online payments. So they do like a direct deposit to your bank account. So they don't send paper checks anymore.
Well, that's one less step for you. I would assume that's optimal.
Yeah, you get paid faster. So it's a lot better actually.
Is there anything else to do with accepting payment from insurance companies that's notable?
No, that's the main thing is you want to make sure you have the account set up and then, make sure that you're enrolled in the electronic payments.
Are there some kind of reimbursement policies that are relevant here?
Oh, yes. One thing to just note with insurance, and this is going to vary by insurance and insurance plan and all of that, but you will be becoming an insurance provider means you are bound to the rates. So we can't talk about what the rates are, but you are bound by them. So if they're going to pay X amount of dollars for this much time that you spend with a client, you can't bill the client for that extra time or extra cost. So let's just say you normally would charge $200 an hour, but insurance is only going to cover $150. You can't then bill the client for that extra $50 because you are in network and you are contractually obligated to accept that payment amount. So
another reason to read your contract.
Yes. And you want to make sure you get a fee schedule when you ask, when you get the contract. That's something you want to ask for is a fee schedule. So,
okay. Good stuff to know. Mm-hmm. So other clients may opt to self-pay.
Yeah.
What are the options for self-pay?
So for self-pay, you can, same thing. You could do, checks. So you can have clients write you out a check, or you could do credit card payments, which would mean that you're going to need some way to actually accept credit card payments. So if you're going through your bank, they may actually have merchant terminals. So my first thing that I did was I went through my bank and I got set up with what's called merchant services, and I did online payments. So I was able to embed little buttons on my website and people click and pay.
So you need a website to accept credit card payments, essentially.
So there's a lot of other, some people use things like PayPal. I use a credit card processing now called Stripe, which is an online platform, and I can enter in the credit card. Yeah. So there's other options like this, or my electronic records system, which is called SimplePractice, and there's a lot of other platforms out there. They actually work with Stripe. So when I have clients who fill out all their information online and I gather all their medical history, I can also set up an invoice in there, and then they could pay it on directly on their client portal in SimplePractice and use their credit card there too. So even if you don't have a website and you're just using an EMR, there's other ways to.
What's an EMR?
Oh, electronic medical records. Sorry.
Okay.
Or electronic.
So if someone doesn't have their own website, but somehow they get self-paying clients, I don't know how you would without a website, but if you did, in theory, they could accept payment through these platforms.
Yep.
They could also just send someone a PayPal link, I guess, too.
Yeah. So PayPal has a business account where you can set up invoices, and then you can email the invoice to somebody, and then they would click on their own unique link, and it brings them to an invoice on PayPal's website, and then they could pay using their credit card there.
Okay. It sounds like a lot of this stuff is probably worth us digging into in an individual video where it's edited video content where it's just Felicia and I snap to the fancier stuff with editing that you've probably maybe seen on our channel before. But we'll dig into some of this stuff with more specifics a little later on. Leave a comment if you're interested in knowing the specifics for stuff like this. We can dig into individual topics, no problem. So on the next up, we've got other steps we were taking here aside from the absolute necessities. We just touched on payment policies and procedures for both self-pay and accepting insurance payments. What do you think is next?
You want to figure out how you're going to actually see clients. So
how to see clients.
Yeah. So are you going to see clients face to face? So this might involve, an office, or if you're going to do virtual appointments, which a lot of people are doing now. So video sessions or telephone sessions, how you might work with clients. And one thing I will say, and things are a little kind of weird right now, and coverage is a little bit different, but you want to make sure that if you are an insurance provider, that again, reading your contract, making sure that you know what is covered. So are telehealth, virtual or, phone sessions covered by the insurance plan? If not, do they require you to be face-to-face with somebody in an office setting?
Do insurance companies cover you going to see the client in their home?
Yeah, certain companies. So, like for me, independents covered home visits, but certain companies like insurance companies like Cigna and United Healthcare did not. So it really varied by plan.
So you can either have a centralized office location to see clients. They come to you. In some cases, you can go to clients, and in other cases, some sort of virtual environment, whether it be a Zoom call, a video call of some kind, or just a voice call?
Yeah. So again, with things kind of being a little different now, and a lot of insurance companies are accepting or allowing for and covering video sessions and telephone sessions. So you're not seeing the person. But one thing to note is that if you are an insurance provider and you are doing any kind of telehealth type things, it needs to be through a HIPAA compliant platform.
And what is that?
So this is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which basically is that all healthcare professionals, so dietitians included, are making sure that they are protecting that, personal health information. PHI is what they call it. So you are protecting that health information in a secure manner, and then any platform you use is also done in a secure manner.
So you can't just call someone on your personal cell phone and conduct a virtual visit that way. You can't just do like a Facebook video call.
Yes, exactly.
There are professional platforms that are specifically used and designed to keep that information being transmitted over those mediums secure.
Yes, that it's secure.
HIPAA compliance.
Yes,
is the big thing.
And we're going to link to HIPAA because there's a lot of information on HIPAA as to like what's involved, what kinds of policies you need to have, what people need to sign, and it's just a lot of information. And so we'll link that down below to go over.
I assume dietitians get beat over the head with what HIPAA is and why it's important during their credentialing process.
Yeah, and one thing people I think just don't realize though is with like the video platforms is like the secure, what is considered secure. And so one thing that makes it easy is like a lot of platforms will say like HIPAA compliant, which makes it so much easier. Just, okay, great.
Yeah, that's how you know. It's like if there's a gluten-free label on the...
Yeah, that helps a lot.
HIPAA compliant. Look for that when you're considering which platforms to use for video and voice over IP.
Yes, absolutely.
Voice over internet provider, VoIP. Office paperwork.
Yes. So some office paperwork and just some of the things that I have, honestly. So a new client form. So this literally anything about the person, their basic information, their insurance information.
We're talking physical paper.
Yes. Or electronic. So again,
either way, a filing system for, you need to prepare yourself to have that on hand.
Yes. Yeah. So when you're first getting started, and honestly, when I first got started, I did paper forms. So I used to send out papers, which was a whole process and not really the best approach. But it's because then I needed a filing cabinet that locked, and I needed, it was just a lot of paper.
We still have that filing cabinet.
I do. I still use it. But with having like an electronic record system, which is a little bit of an upfront cost and a monthly cost, it's so worth it because one of the biggest things is you could set up like a client portal and you send them the information, they fill it out online, there's no paperwork, and everything's stored in one location and it's secure. So
you currently use a web-based service?
Yes.
For client forms?
Yes. So it's for scheduling client forms, and then it's also where I can submit insurance claims, also, send invoices to clients. I can use secure messaging on there too to talk to clients as well. So
what platform is this?
SimplePractice, which I have a referral code.
Okay, link to the, I guess we'll do the referral code in the description or the show notes if anyone would care to support Felicia and also take advantage of what seems to be a very convenient and time-saving service from what I'm gathering as a non-professional.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really great platforms out there, and I actually have a blog about finding a good platform.
Link to that in the description as well. There's going to be a ton of stuff down there to check out. Please do take a look if you're interested.
But if you're looking at a platform, do the free trials, to be honest, because I didn't do that the first time. And then when I went through, I did it again. And you get to know what you want, what you need, what kind of layout you like. So definitely do the free trials.
Always do the free trial first. So this is a paid system and service.
Yes.
But the alternative is organizing physical paperwork or files, I guess, yourself. And again, kind of like the CAQH, one centralized system that is just touch and go, kind of turnkey, and more buzzwords for business that I'm just throwing out there to make us sound more professional. But it sounds like this is a very, very convenient thing to, I don't know, but it sounds very professionally advantageous to take advantage of something like that.
Yeah, and do it early, because I waited. I was like, oh, I'm going to save money. I'll just do paper forms and encrypted flash drives, and it was a nightmare.
This is not a sponsored video, by the way. We're not sponsored by the company that she's referring to. It's just a thing that she likes and is very helpful for doing the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And the blog that we're going to link goes through finding any platform. So it's not specific, just the one that I have. So
cool. That sounds good. All right. Any other stuff to consider here? I mean, you have, speaking of your blog, you have quite an extensive online presence yourself. You have a website, you have a blog. We've got 2 YouTube channels, and you've got a website.
Yes,
I think I already said that.
Yes.
With Facebook, Instagram, you're present on a lot of platforms. Why is that?
So the online presence is huge. Is people get to know you, and one thing I want to point out is, when you become a provider for insurance companies, it really is very vague as to what the information is listed in the directory, as to what people see. So being able to have
what people see about you.
Yes. Yeah. It's like my information, my contact information, like that's it. Like nothing about specialties really.
Not even a picture.
No. So it's like a gray building.
Oh,
like
cool.
A stock image.
Perfect.
So
we know everything we need to know now.
Yeah,
Moving on. Yeah. So all right. So this stuff doesn't link it to your.
No. And so, having a website and being able to direct people to a website to say, hey, and I do this all the time, get to know me, see what I'm all about, my links to all my blogs are on there. And it's so much better to be able to have this, centralized online location, but also it gives you that layer of, honestly, credibility and professionalism to have a website.
Yeah, it shows a level of commitment if you have your own website. You use a handful of services for your website. You've had positive and negative experiences. Do you want to get into detail about any of the things that you've done to start a website, or any kind of recommendations on that front, because it's quite a process?
Yeah, I mean, you can, I guess one of the things I'll just mention, because I hear this
You
often.
did it all yourself.
I did it all
By the
myself.
way, she didn't hire someone to create her website or anything. She did it all herself. So if you look at her website, just bear in mind that she did everything that you're seeing on her own.
Yes. Yeah. And when I first started, it was a lot of HTML. I use GoDaddy, and that's obvious because it's on the bottom of my website, powered by GoDaddy.
You use GoDaddy for the actual layout itself and also the hosting?
Yes. So
those are 2 separate things. You get a website, if you get a URL, that doesn't really mean much.
No, you just own,
You just own the URL. It's not a website at that point.
Yeah, that
You need
domain.
hosting services. You need a programming suite. There's a bunch to it. It's not just getting a URL for $10 a year.
Yes. Yeah. Like I have myrdjourney.com, but I don't have a website set up for it. So I just have the myrdjourney, and I, have that. But
yeah, you want to stake that claim. That's not a bad idea. Someone
Exactly.
else could come in and get it and squat and then sell it for like $2,000 and
Yes.
try to extort you for it.
Exactly. And that's pretty cheap to just get. So if you kind of know what you want your business name to be, like in a website, you can get it from now and then always build a website later.
Yeah, you can just buy it and sit on it. Like if you want, bigforksmallplate.com or for whatever, I'm sure that's already taken, whatever. But if you want whatever it is, you can probably just get that, pay the $10 a year, even if you're still in college, and if you really know what you want, you might as well get it now.
Yeah.
Again, not sponsored by GoDaddy. We're not sponsored by anybody.
We're not
This is just what you use.
Yeah, just what I use. But then you'll get hosting, which is the most expensive part.
You don't have to go through the provider of the URL. to get hosting.
Yes,
They bundle it for you, but there are other, and you can do like Wix and stuff like that too.
Yeah, Wix is another popular one because it's like drag and drop, and so that it's you literally drag and drop things, and so it makes it really easy to build. They have a lot of, and same with GoDaddy or other website builders, like Squarespace is another one.
That's another popular one. Yeah. Not sponsored by Squarespace.
No. WordPress, which apparently is really tough to get to know, but once you do, it's easy to know. But I don't use it.
So a bit of an upfront learning curve, but once you have it, it's really easy to use.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a commitment to learn. I've heard of WordPress. That's a pretty popular blogging format as well.
My blog is through WordPress, but I don't have like a website, like a .com. So it's like WordPress.
So you're a one-stop shop all through GoDaddy. I don't know if you want to get into like pricing and plans and how much of a commitment it was, or like tiers of having a website and how much, I imagine what you have right now is not necessarily what you would recommend someone jump right into when they first get started.
Yeah, honestly, I forgot what mine was, but it was, I have like the website builder, and I just kind of put everything with GoDaddy. So like my Office suite and like my encrypted email, all that stuff is through them too.
But to get started with a website, what's kind of the minimum? Do you happen to remember what you used when you first got started for your website?
I'm almost positive. So I think there was only like a basic where it was like, I think 5 pages. So when you clicked, you had like the main page and you had like 5 tabs basically that you can have, which you can really build a website with 1 page if you needed to. But it was like 5 pages that came with it. And I'm almost positive I did like the 2 or 3 year mark. And I think it was like $499, like $499.
For that 2 or 3 years or per year?
For the 2 or 3 years bundled together. Yeah.
So there are plans, shop around for this kind of thing. There are a variety of tiers for plans depending on the service. You don't have to go with one company for everything. You can get the URL from this one and the hosting from that one.
Yeah. And
then some other stuff from somebody else probably. It's certainly not my area of expertise, but the point is that you have options.
Yes. Definitely a lot of options.
And a website is worth having. And, for the exact thing you said, it gives you a much more polished and professional appeal. But it also serves as a content hub for everything that your business is.
Yeah.
So if you have a website, you can link off to literally everything from there rather than sharing several links with people. Check out my blog, check out this, check out that. Just link to the website, and they can go from there with whatever whatever they're looking for.
Yeah, and if you're on my website at all, or want to check it out, there's I have like a contact page, so people can email me directly through the website if they're interested in maybe scheduling. They could schedule an appointment on my website directly, and that goes directly to my electronic record system. They get notifications. I have my email list sign up there, and then there's also the links to everything else that I do, and it's just so much easier just to be like, check out my website.
Yeah, honestly, if you're looking to set this sort of thing up, if it were me, I would take a look at Felicia's website and just see what's there and kind of look at it from the perspective of someone who's, trying to build this and like why things are where they are and just sort of recognize the elements of the site. And it's a bundle of your online presence.
Yeah.
So we didn't really talk about the blog or social media or anything like that. Do you want to dig into that stuff a little bit?
I just want to mention, like with like a blog, like some people are kind of afraid of how to get started with putting themselves out there. And the blog was, I started the blog when I was in college. And so just a way to kind of share information. But then also, I feel like I was sharing, credible information, but also getting people to get to know me, and my style and how I talked about nutrition. So
one thing I'll say about having a blog and a YouTube channel or two and an Instagram profile and a Facebook page is that you're covering a lot of mediums of sharing information. So if you have a blog and people like to read, they can read your blog. If you have an Instagram and people like looking at pictures, there you go. You have an Instagram. If people like consuming content via a podcast with audio or watching videos, if you cover all of these platforms, it's going to maximize the amount of exposure you're opening yourself up to for people to find you and also sort of consume your content in a way that's going to help them get to know who you are as a professional, which kind of leads us into marketing, I guess.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about marketing, how you would market your business and how maybe social media plays a part in that, but also outside of social media as well?
Yeah. So a couple key things that I want to highlight about marketing itself is that's honestly where the online presence comes from, to be able to say, like, check out my website, and, that layer of professionalism. And I will say that my website did not look like what it does now. So when I first started,
it's gone through quite a few iterations.
Yeah. So it's okay if your website changes over the years. I mean, that's the whole point. But when when you're marketing yourself, you're giving this online presence. Here's my blog, and people can get to know you as a writer, and the types of pictures that you take on maybe Instagram and all that. And that's all ways to market yourself. And so if people see that you're creating a lot of really great content, they might be more likely to want to work with you as a dietitian, or as a company hiring you on to do like a project, or a food demo. Something.
There's a lot of professionalism, and honestly, it's perception is reality. The way you present yourself to the world is very significant. People are going to make judgments, and you're going to make an impression regardless of whether or not you're trying. You might as well set yourself up to make the best impression possible. And all of this stuff is going to help with marketing yourself.
Yeah. And if you think about, if someone's searching for a dietitian in their area, and they find, Susie Q with, I got a website and a blog and a lot of presence online, they can kind of really get to know them and feel comfortable. They might be more likely to go with that person, maybe versus someone else who doesn't have any online presence and just has like a contact information. So it might give you a leg up in terms of having, this information online.
So I guess something else to consider too, and I think it's worth mentioning, is that you have sort of a brand with a specific appearance. Mm-hmm. You have symbols. We use certain colors and symbols for Felicia's content, where the thumbnail on this video had the MyRDJ diamond, and her business has like the orange, and it's the color scheme is like this light pale green and pale orange. You hired a graphic designer, didn't you?
Yeah. So for Peraza Nutrition, I hired someone to do my logo, and then also a color palette. So if you've noticed, there's like a lemon, 2 types of greens, and an orange. So there's those 4, and then there's also a specific font too. And so that way it's consistent across the board. So you see the consistent colors, the logo's the same and all that. So I did hire somebody to do that, and the person I worked with was great. Small business, so it was really nice just being able to work one-on-one with somebody. But then there was also the MyRD Journey stuff. I just did that on my own. It wasn't anything special.
So you hired someone to do the Peraza Nutrition stuff, and for the MyRD Journey, you did some stuff yourself for branding material and icons and things. What did you use for the thing that you did on your own? I
used Canva, which is free, and there's also like a professional version too. But for what you might need, Canva was really nice. And then I think I just used like a free app that I found on my iPad store, where I was able to just kind of like draw some stuff. So
it's important to have a consistent sort of branding and look with your business, where people see the colors, the symbol, and they have a familiarity with it. Mm-hmm. It's good to be consistent across your platforms for your business. It's just going to help your appeal and help you be more marketable. Now, is there anything that because you're accepting clients through insurance, and a lot of this stuff, a lot of the clientele is being driven to you. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really a big thing for you to go out and start marketing campaigns for your business, say how a restaurant or somebody would.
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, and when I first started accepting insurance, it was a little slow, and I usually get like peak times where people contact me. And a lot of my referrals now actually come from not necessarily people finding me on their insurance company website, but actually physicians or like a company referring to me because they know that I accept insurance. And so people might not search for me themselves, but their company or their doctor is telling them about me, and they know that I take their insurance.
So a lot of your marketing is it's not, I wouldn't quite call that word of mouth, but it's sort of a transference of reference between businesses or other healthcare entities.
Yes.
That's sort of indirect, that you didn't necessarily get going, but because you accept insurance and you're a provider, that is kind of its own way of marketing your business.
Yeah, that was a huge selling point. So when I actually went out to try to network with providers in my area, so like with doctors or with gyms, that was one of the selling points I used was I accept insurance. And so people aren't paying out of pocket for my services. And
so you just said something that I think we need to talk about.
What did I say?
When you started networking.
Oh, yes.
Let's get into networking a little bit. What is that? What did you do?
So when we were doing a lot of face-to-face stuff, I was going to like what's called Chamber of Commerce events. So my local Chamber of Commerce, which was like a business association, I was a member. And so I would go to these free networking events, or if you're not a member, you can go and pay or, have a first one free. But anyway, I would go to these events and I would take my business cards and I would network with people who were...
You had business cards made.
Oh, yes. I guess that's another one.
Something that you can hand someone and say, here's who I am, here's what I do, here's my information.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, definitely.
Get some business cards made, maybe. Think about it.
If you're going to do a lot of face-to-face stuff, definitely get business cards.
In the future, I'm sure that'll be more viable than it is right now, but something to think about, at least.
Yeah. And some people will actually just share their LinkedIn, or they have like a virtual business card now. And so there's a lot of other platforms that you can use. But if you're doing anything face-to-face, business cards are great. Or when I was actually connecting with providers, like, doctor's offices or things like that, I actually had a 1-page flyer that was like my picture on it, my social media information, the services I offered, and then the insurances that I accept. So it was like a one kind of snapshot of me, but also they could have it posted somewhere.
This was a physical piece of paper that, how would you get this to a doctor's office? Where's the connection?
So a couple ways. One, I used to bring some of them with me to network events. So I had my business cards.
Doctors' practices would show up at these events too?
Not always doctors' offices, but I would have like healthcare systems there. And so they might work with, independent, or they knew people. So it's the whole thing. Or I was able to connect with other businesses like, it could literally be anything, like, a steaming service, but, people have insurance.
At one point, someone tried to sell you on like a diner or something, having your like business on their placemat or something like that too?
I did pay for that. That was a stupid idea.
How'd that go? Didn't work out, huh?
So, those placemats, but if you've ever gone to a diner or literally anywhere.
Everyone's already there.
Oh, okay. So
we already get it.
So I had this, it's like $400. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea.
Okay. Well, we're kind of going off on a tangent here.
I forgot about that.
There are a lot of different things you can do. I guess the most valuable being the ones where you were networking at these events.
Yeah.
And your information was being given to, you were giving it to them, or maybe they were soliciting it, health care companies? Yeah.
So literally, and it depends on who your target is, but I was able to connect with, the healthcare side of it. So whether it was like hospital systems, or, independent, chiropractor offices or anything healthcare related, they were often at these chamber events that I would go to for networking. And then there was also this other aspect of business that was unrelated to healthcare, and it was, pizza places. But, a lot of people in those areas were still like, oh, this would be like a dietitian. I never thought about it. Or, I didn't realize my insurance would accept
So having an association with your services as a dietitian is a way that other entities and healthcare companies can provide value to their clients. So it's a win-win, and you do want to network as much as possible, because then basically other people are marketing and advertising for you. Yeah.
And that's, when I connected with some doctor's offices, outside of these like networking events that I'm talking about, I would actually either just go in, or I would call, and just say that I was a dietitian in the area and I wanted to, connect with them and, see about if they were referring to a dietitian already. And I might talk about my specialties if that was relevant to whatever they were doing. But, you could definitely still make a call or send an email, even if you can't physically go somewhere to network.
So that's networking with other businesses and other companies. I'm sure there's also value to networking with other dietitians.
Absolutely. My focus isn't necessarily on, conditions like chronic kidney disease, or even cancer, but I know a lot of dietitians who are. So being able to network with other dietitians, you can, people refer them to you, or if they get filled up, like often I might not have an available slot for an appointment. And so I might refer to another dietitian in the area. Or I've had some people who want face-to-face. And so I refer to a dietitian who has an office, but then they'll refer to me for virtual.
So you can gain clients and help your business quite a bit by making yourself available and known to other dietitians in your area. It's important to network with each other as dietitians, and that's also kind of a benefit to specialization, I guess. There are certain areas of practice that you're more well-versed in or feel more comfortable practicing with, and others that you don't. So you will refer clients out to people who are more specialized in specific areas, but other people may refer clients to you where their expertise doesn't quite cover what the client needs as much, but they know who you are.
Absolutely.
And one good way of making friends with other dietitians is to refer clients to them. Sometimes if you give a little, you get a lot. I mean, if you give a couple clients if you refer a couple clients to a handful of dietitians and you create a little network of dietitians for yourself, all of a sudden you have potentially several dietitians who may end up sending you clients as well. And it's also important to help each other and support each other. There's too much work to go around to be competition, like greed and like, I'm after your business. It's not, you're not starting a restaurant.
Yeah.
And even restaurants network with each other. It's not really like that.
Yeah. And even if you have the same specialty as somebody else, there's like you said, there's so much work to go around, first of all. And second of all, it's still good to have those connections, because I know a lot of dietitians. I know dietitians who are like down the street and they see all different types of clients, but they'll still refer to me, if they get backed up or booked up, or they might refer to me for more plant-based stuff and I might refer to them for other things. And so it's just so much better to network.
That too. And if you're struggling with a certain aspect of the business and you're stuck on something and you're not sure, who better to ask than another dietitian who's involved in the space to see if they've had a solution or something they've done to alleviate whatever that issue is that you're facing.
Absolutely. Yeah, there needs to be more, and this is kind of the whole point of the podcast, there needs to be more talked about with, business aspect of dietetics and kind of elevating everybody. And so being able to kind of help someone else out that's a dietitian, they're more likely to also help you out. So when you are in a position where like, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm running into this that I never ran into before, you have this network of dietitians to kind of reach out to.
A rising tide lifts all boats, I believe is the expression. That is part of the goal here with My RD Journey. It's about the industry. Because who at the end of the day is benefiting from dietitians being elevated and doing better? It's your clients.
Yeah.
It's the industry as a whole. That's what it's all about.
It is. Yeah.
I think we did a good job here covering what someone would need to know to get into private practice and how to start. Any closing thoughts in terms of advice or guidance?
I honestly would say, start with the priorities and then, work at your own pace with building the rest of it, and know that you can always change and always tweak. I've changed so much over the years with my online presence and how I do things and what my specialties are. And, that's totally fine to do. You don't need to know everything and have everything figured out. Get those basics done, but, be okay with kind of evolving as it goes on.
Okay, and that's a good synopsis. So just to drill through everything that we've kind of talked about here. First steps being the NPI, the EIN, and your liability insurance. Next up, you should probably get your CAQH handled and go into accepting insurance, applying for different insurance companies to get covered. From there, you're pretty much good, but I'd say the most valuable thing then to do is probably start a bank account for your business, start a website, get very familiar with HIPAA and what's covered for client communication, figure out how you're going to see your clients, and then how you're going to organize stuff, paper, electronics. There are systems that you can use, links for everything in the description. Then tweak your online presence, social media, fix up your website a little more, maybe consider upgrading and getting into it yourself to maybe have the freedom to really handle it yourself. Marketing materials, the graphic designer for symbols and whatnot, learning how to market yourself, getting into what marketing even is, considering some free or paid options for marketing. There are a lot of things you can do. Google has ad campaigns you can run, YouTube, all kinds of stuff that you can get into. It costs a lot of money. There's, of course, a lot of free marketing too. And then networking, we just talked about, completely off script. We didn't even plan networking, but that's a really important aspect as well. Network yourself, go to events, get involved in online groups. Reddit is a good place, maybe. There are forums and websites where people congregate to talk about this stuff and share information with each other and be open, support each other. It's only going to benefit you and the industry and the clients as a whole.
Yeah. That was really good.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right. Well, that I think about wraps it up here. Thanks for joining us. I hope you get something out of this. Refer to the timestamps in the description that I will inevitably have to add because I think this is probably our most important episode of My Already Journey.
Yeah.
I'll have it all sparsed out. I'll put some more time into editing this one. But thanks for joining us. As always, it's always a pleasure. Please do subscribe for future updates to the channel and check out Felicia on all social media platforms. Links in the description. And I guess that'll do it from us.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks.